My name is John Franzese Jr., and I am lucky to be chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got John Franzese Jr.
Okay, let me tell you that story. Here's what happened. Suge Knight treated me real well. When I got sober in 2001, I would go maybe 2000 and a year later, or maybe right away, to Death Row Records. Ori Spado was the guy that my father was the intermediary between him and my dad. All that story, my dad saying, tell him, he didn't say it like that because he didn't have to. Because I respected Suge, and I'll tell you why. That building on Wilshire Boulevard that I used to go to with Ori, all the tenants left because if anyone knows what was happening at that time, random shots, like people were shooting at that building, and a beautiful building, and nobody wanted to be a tenant in there anymore. But we would go, and Death Row was there, and maybe there were a couple of tenants. And let me tell you something, Suge Knight didn't have an easy time at that time. But as far as I'm concerned, I told my dad, he acted like a man. He never ran and hid. As a matter of fact, he was up there. Me and Ori were up there one day, and some guy was talking about, like, why you got these two guys here. And Suge said, well, let me tell you something. They seem to be the only two guys that aren't worried about coming here every day. And so he was a good guy. And me and Ori's son we did a publishing deal. I mean, we were trying to do other things, but he got violated. That's the time he got violated, when he ran the guy over or something else, or something happened. And to our luck, it was a $7,500 publishing deal. And to our luck, instead of going, we were lazy. There's a lot of traffic in LA. So the check came in late. Me and Anthony said, let's go Monday. We'll pick it up Monday. Because we're there all the time, right?
Yeah.
So he gets violated over the weekend. The check's gone. We never get the money. And he's got his own headache after that. But the reality was, my dad and him, any of the business dealings they weren't adversarial. He was very receptive to making money, and he treated my dad with me and Ori, and I know that was because of my dad, with an awful lot of respect. And
I heard a story about your dad threatening Suge Knight that if anything happens to you, there's going to be problems. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw that. And that was something somebody heard in a place. I think the name of the place, it was on like West 9th. It was a restaurant that my dad frequented a lot. And it was in there, and supposedly, but I think my dad was saying one thing and people hear it however they wish to hear it. And he made it look like it was adversarial, because there was never a time when I had any beef with Suge or at all, or he had with me, ever. So I'm not sure that was now. Now, Bill, you got to remember, if I broke out getting and drinking again, other things could have happened. My deal around, once I started drinking and getting bad, my deal with my dad and my brother, that is, if I was drunk or high, nobody owed me nothing. Like, they shouldn't ruin any more deals because of me, and that the business they'll carry it on. but I have no right to anything until I get sober again and start something new.
Is that why the whole getting proposed thing fell apart?
Yes, well, Michael initially told me and my dad that Junior said he'll straighten you out, but you're a little too young. And he don't want to make it where that your brother, you all got straightened out. Then my dad had two sons that are straightened out. Just wait till you're like 21, 23. And the that was fine. One of the reasons were also that I got into a lot of fights. I mean, Michael told me don't get into fights, don't gain attention. And it's hard to tell somebody don't gain attention when my whole don't you know who I am? And don't you know who I am everywhere I went? Now, people say, even though I might have said that I was a really good guy, and that the difference between, well, me and maybe Michael and my dad was I didn't care about as much about the money. I liked people. So when you like people, people like you. But I like them to know who I was. But I'd rather have fun. For me, I'd forget about the money to have fun. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of people would be like, you talk good about your dad, but what happened to where you end up cooperating against him? And how does it even come to that? Because a lot of people want to know.
Well, Bill, by 1997, I had spent look, I don't consider myself an addict or an alcoholic in that sense. I was a drunken bum, degenerate junkie. I was of no use to anything or anyone on this earth. I figured I didn't deserve to live, and I was not a guy. I mean, if I was to kill myself, how am I going to drink and get? It never made sense to me. I'm like, well, if I die, I'm not going to be able to get another drink,
Yeah.
So that was not my thing. But I just one day I was on a really bad run, probably 3 weeks. I never knew how long, and I just figured I wasn't worth anything, and this FBI agent was leaving a voicemail at my house, my mother's house that I had broken into. No, her and my sister weren't home. I was going to rob the house again because that's what I did. I was going to rob the house again, and I hear this voicemail, and I'm thinking about an incident. Look, let's just say that at that moment, for some reason, I listened to the voicemail and picked up the phone. That was 97. Okay.
Yeah, but so was it because you were on drugs, or was it because you were like, my dad's doing bad things and I'm gonna do the right thing? Like, what was going through your mind?
No, because when Rob Lewicki called me, it wasn't, hey, you're going to be in trouble at that point either. What I did know what was happening is my mother was about to remortgage the house. Now, Rob has told me this is not so, but then again, the FBI cannot tell you ever if someone else was cooperating. Like they can never give that person up. And there was a guy from Otisville, and I think it was Otisville or I don't think it was Milan. And he was going to remortgage my mother's house. The guy was in jail with my dad. Somewhere I heard that guy was an informant and that he was saying that my father was extorting him to do this and my mother's going to get involved in the case. Because they do that. They did that to Ernie Boy. Ernie Boy Abamonte, they arrested his dad for answering a phone call and putting someone else on the phone. They cut him loose eventually. But in any event, around this time that was happening, when I heard Rob's phone call, I'm thinking, my mind started thinking, and I said, well, let me go see what he's got to say. And I did ask him if we could avoid my father getting in trouble. Look, I'm not a good guy. I mean, I didn't do this because I'm chivalrous And whatever part of my conscience caused me to do this, I'm not trying to say I made a hero's move. For some strange reason, one chain of event to another, I met Rob, and when I asked him if he would mind if we could protect my dad, and he said, I'm not looking to put your father in jail. All I want you to do at this time is give us information about the two factions in the Colombo. You know, there was during the war. And he said, I know that if your dad goes back to jail after because he was supposed to get released the next month. If he goes back to jail, I'm not going to get this good information from you. And I was called a confidential informant at that time, not a cooperating witness. Now, we did that, I believe, for 3 months, maybe 6. I don't really remember, but I
What
know
type of
they.
stuff did you tell him? Do you remember what type of stuff you told him?
Well, I was giving him stuff like who's in charge. I know that we were the ones that said Andrew is in charge, the real guy, and then they were putting fake guys, saying that they were other guys to take the heat off, the alignment of the crews. We definitely told them about, Andrew and my dad sent me to Anthony Colombo and Joe Colombo's affair up in the upstate New York to bring in a proposal to them. I mean, to bring a proposal to Anthony Colombo because nobody was killing anyone for a little while, like it was a little bit of a truce. They were supposed to come in and surrender to our side and get displaced again in the family. But they hadn't done that yet. So now, rather than go right back to killing, my father and Andrew sent me up there, and I went with a guy named Mikey DeLucia, who didn't know why we were going. I couldn't tell him. He was around, but he wasn't around to know that business. And I go there and I sit down at the affair, and then of course Anthony takes me in the back. Now Anthony takes me, and I tell him what my dad said. I said, Anthony, look, my dad said to tell you if you come in, that Andrew has said that he'll make you a captain and you can keep all of them, all the guys, but you got to come in. And he said, well, thank you. We'll get back to you. Tell your father I know that when he says something that we can believe it. And the reason why they sent me was because my father couldn't go. And the only person they trusted that if they gave their word was my dad. I mean, the Persico side, our side, that's where me and my dad were. Hey, I'm not a good fellow, I'm not a member of the family, but little pieces of this I would definitely around. That my dad was the only one that they would trust his word, because part of the reason there was this war, and this happened back in the late 80s, guys were getting tired of people getting killed. I mean, Junior was, even my dad was saying, you can't kill all your own guys. It's going to breed dissent, and it did. The other side of the story is that nobody's brought up, and I don't know why. Anthony and Joey Colombo owed Andrew over $100,000 that they didn't want to pay him. Now I don't know about Jerry Fiella, Jimmy Fiella, which they were known as Jerry Brown and Jimmy Brown.
Yeah.
I didn't know about what their thing was, why they didn't come in. And Frankie Camp was on that side too, believe it or not, though he became loyal again to my dad. And we used to meet with them. I mean, when they finally, after I brought that message, mind you, remember, I took a lot of punches in my life. I drank, shot a lot of coke, smoked a lot of crack. So my chronology may not be perfect, but it's somewhat pretty accurate. After I brought them that message, we get a call from an attorney, and we're asked to go to the attorney's office. So I drive I don't mean we, my dad. So I drive my dad there. It's one of those days that nobody else could be with us. My dad has to be alone. So I bring him there. I wait outside, and in the office, I see I don't remember if it was Jerry or Jimmy Brown, which Fiella, and Anthony and Joey Colombo in the lawyer's office in the back. And that's where my dad had some meetings with them. I remember because John Jacobson was up in that office, Michael's old attorney.
Yeah.
Now, they had nothing, Jacobson had nothing to do with it. I forget the lawyer, but it was in their office. This way, worse comes to worse, my father's less exposed to the fact that he's meeting with known criminals. It's a law office, although that would have never stopped the government from violating him. And I brought that information, I'm pretty sure, to Rob. I don't remember how much I gave him, how much I didn't. But
Yeah, but
those
it didn't
things,
matter about the government getting the information. They had you, so that you're like the golden ticket for them. You know, you're the closest to him.
well, yeah.
Did you
And
feel like bad? Did you think, damn, I could be hurting my dad given this information?